So, Stu, in this Conveyancing Matters Q&A, we are going to talk about early repayment fees on redemption statements, Stu. I know they're a bit of a big issue for you.
Yeah, it's getting a bigger problem, dare I say. I think we're all sort of used to requesting a redemption statement before completion. That's not really changed, has it? But there seems to be more and more circumstances now where there are early repayment fees involved, and the willy-nilly lackadaisical attitude that we can just simply deduct that fee from the redemption on completion.
Yeah, and of course the problem is that the client assumes that the early redemption fee won't be payable.
Of course.
And as you've said, Stu, because the broker has told them it won't be. But I think the problem for conveyancers is that if it's on the redemption statement, they are expecting us to pay it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the lack of instructions, I think, that we receive from the lender that causes problem. When you look at a new mortgage offer, of course, we sometimes have a paragraph in there which says, if they're porting the same product, you can deduct it. And everyone makes the assumption they're porting the same product just because the amount that's being redeemed is the same amount that's being lent again. Doesn't mean it's the same product. How do you know?
Yeah, and it's one of those built-in delays, isn't it, Stu? Because invariably, the conveyancer has got to then go to the lender. And remember, this is on a sale, and the lenders are much less willing to communicate on a sale, really, than on a purchase, aren't they? So we're often asking on the sale but cross-referring to the mortgage offer
of course,
on the purchase to establish whether those early redemption penalties are actually going to be, payable on completion or not.
Yeah, of course.
It's just a big additional piece of work for the conveyancer. It's additional stress. But, of course, the big thing, Stu, ringing up and asking the lender.
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, I've said this before. We've had matters before where with one particular lender, and in fact, actually, we've had it twice with two separate lenders, big lenders, where we rang them up and Joe Bloggs has said, no problem, you can deduct that fee. One of our particular circumstances, the fee was over £8,000. We've deducted it. We've got a telephone recording. We've got the name of Joe Bloggs in our file notes. Absolutely everything done correctly. And following completion, when of course we get the letter to say that you've not fully redeemed it, or the email, we query it, and we're told that that person's since left the bank.
Oh my word.
They made a mistake, and it's basically tough luck. And of course, we've given an undertaking. So we then have to pay that money. And that particular one, which is probably 2 or 3 years ago now, was actually, it ended up with a write-off because the client just disappeared into thin air.
Oh dear, Stu, that's just really grim.
Yeah, and I felt bad for the particular fee owner because they had made notes, they had spoken, and the person clearly says, yes, you can deduct it.
So really, and I hate to say this because it sounds like a criticism, but the learning point for the conveyancer there is you cannot rely on anything a lender tells you verbally on the phone.
Absolutely.
You must get that in writing.
Nail on the head. That's exactly what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the problem is we get so much pressure from the broker because the broker makes these kind of rash statements to the client. 100% it can be deducted. They've arranged the new mortgage on the basis that it can be deducted. So we kind of had that little bit of conflict between what's being said and trying to explain to a client, basically when they're going to complete, that we may have to withhold that amount of money, often doesn't go down well.
Yeah, I think certainly what I always used to do, Stu, when I was in practice full time, is I would do what I always called my fag packet completion figures before exchange, actually. And of course, they were never finalised, but and the starting point really these days, I think, to try and avoid those risks for conveyancers is you've got to do the sums on the basis that you're paying the early redemption penalty, that you're paying that early repayment
I would probably take it a step further than that. We actually request a redemption statement right at the start, just to make sure that they're not in negative equity. Not that that seems to happen much these days, but just to make sure there's no negative equity or something silly like that. And of course, at that point, you're on notice that there is an early repayment fee. So if the client has not detailed this, we have a standard template that we send out to the client saying, here's your redemption statement. And if there is an early repayment fee in there, we make it clear that we would need that deducted from the next redemption statement on completion. And they will need to speak to their broker. And as a team, speak to the bank. We won't be able to do this. You lot do that.
So the learning points really are to Look at your early redemption penalties at the beginning.
At the beginning.
Get that redemption statement right at the beginning, which we would all do anyway.
Yeah.
Never rely on anything a lender tells you on the phone.
Absolutely.
And basically always assume that those figures are going to be payable on
100%. Yeah, work on the worst case scenario, and you can't go wrong. And if you can deal with it at the onset rather than a couple of days before completion, the client does have time to actually ring the bank and say to the bank, why is it on the statement if it doesn't apply? And that's the problem, isn't it? Why is it on the redemption statement if it doesn't apply?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully our lovely conveyancing colleagues will have found that useful and perhaps just brought, a current problem back to their minds.
Absolutely.